American farmers swear by John Deere, Case, and International. But behind barn doors, in the back corners of dealerships, and pulling through fields from Montana to Georgia, there were European tractors quietly outrunning everything the domestic market had. Machines built in Germany, Italy, Sweden, Austria, and Czechoslovakia that did things American engineers hadn't figured out yet. No gear pedal, no radiator, sometimes no water. Farmers noticed, dealers scrambled, and the obsession began. Number 1. Fendt Vario 926 Vario. If there is one European tractor that fundamentally changed what American farmers expected from a high-horsepower machine, it is the Fendt Vario 926 Vario. And the reason is a single engineering achievement that no other tractor manufacturer had pulled off before. On November 13, 1995, at the Agritechnica trade fair in Germany, Fendt unveiled the world's first large tractor, equipped with a steplessly variable transmission, the Vario. No fixed gear steps, no clutch pedal required for speed changes. The operator simply set a speed, and the tractor held it, from a creeping 20 meters per hour all the way up to 50 kilometers per hour, while the engine automatically found its most efficient operating RPM. The engineering behind it was decades in the making. A Fendt engineer named Hans Marschall had been obsessed with the concept since the early 1960s. He found a critical piece of the puzzle at a Hanover trade fair in 1972, wide-angle hydrostats developed by Volvo, and spent years combining them with external power-split planetary gearboxes. His first test transmission with 3 hydrostats was built in 1980. The project was kept secret internally for years. When it finally debuted in 1995 as the favorite 926 Vario, the industry was stunned. The 926 Vario won the Tractor of the Year award for 1999. When the 700 Vario series, the production expression of that same Vario concept, was launched on August 30, the 700 Vario series became Fendt's best-selling tractor lineup and the most popular tractor in Germany. Farmers across Europe, and increasingly in North America, began to experience what this technology actually meant in practice. No gear hunting on hillsides, no clutching and shifting at headlands, perfect PTO speed control for precision implements, and fuel savings because the engine never had to work outside its efficient power band. By 2009, Fendt had committed fully. Every single tractor leaving the Marktoberdorf factory came fitted with a Vario transmission. By November 28, 2016, the 250,000th Vario transmission rolled off the production line. Since 1997, Fendt has been part of Axio Corporation, giving it a significant American distribution presence. American farmers who had spent decades wrestling with power shift levers and clutch pedals began to discover that the German engineers had simply solved a problem everyone else was still working around. The Fendt Vario didn't just sell tractors, it changed the standard. Number 2. Deutz Fiat series. Ask any American farmer who worked through the 1970s what made them stop and look twice at a tractor from Germany, and many of them will say the same thing. It had no radiator, no cooling water, no hoses, no coolant, no risk of an overheating incident in a remote field on a summer afternoon. The Deutz air-cooled diesel engine was not an accident of engineering. It was a deliberate development rooted in World War II, when the Kluckner-Humboldt-Deutz AG company, KHD, was ordered to convert its water-cooled engines into air-cooled units for better dependability in military equipment operating in extreme conditions. After the war, the air-cooled engine stayed, and it became Deutz's most defining characteristic for the next 5 decades. Deutz's roots as an engine company trace back to 1864. When Nikolaus August Otto, the inventor of the 4-stroke internal combustion engine, founded what would eventually become KHD, the first Deutz tractor with a diesel air-cooled engine. The F1 L5 and F2 L5 were produced in the post-war period. By 1954, Deutz had built its 100,000th air-cooled diesel engine. 35 years later, more than 4 million units of that engine family had been sold worldwide. The most famous expression of this technology for American farmers was the Deutz 06 series, which Deutz Fahr itself describes as the most successful tractor series they ever built. These green machines, with their distinctive air-cooled cylinders visible through hood vents, worked farms across the United States in the 1970s and 1980s with a reputation that was almost mythological. No coolant to freeze in winter, fewer fluid systems to maintain, and an engine that could be started and run in conditions that would require a conventionally cooled tractor to idle for 20 minutes first. The Deutz-Allis 9000 series took this air-cooled legacy into a North American body. In 1989, the 900 was powered by a Deutz BF6L5113R turbocharged and intercooled air-cooled 6-cylinder diesel producing 19.3 horsepower. It came mated to a German ZF front axle, an axle brand still common in American agricultural equipment today, and was styled to resemble the Allis-Chalmers machines that American dealers and farmers already loved, finished in the trademark Allis Persian orange. Deutz Fahr tractors have been distributed in North America since the early days of the brand's export ambitions. More than 500,000 Deutz Fahr tractors are in operation worldwide today. But for many Americans who remember the 06 series and the 9000 series, the air-cooled Deutz tractor remains in a category entirely its own, a European machine that solved a problem by eliminating the system that caused it. Number 3. Lamborghini Trattori. Yes, that Lamborghini, the one with the Raging Bull logo. And yes, it started with tractors, not sports cars. Ferruccio Lamborghini was born into a farming family in the Po Valley of northern Italy. After World War II, he saw that Italian farmers needed affordable, practical mechanization desperately. So he did what any resourceful post-war Italian entrepreneur would do. He gathered surplus military engines, differentials, and mechanical components from army disposal centers called ARAR, Azienda Rilievo Alienazione Residuati, and he built his first tractors from scrap. Lamborghini Trattori was founded in 1948 in Cento, Italy. The very first machines were held together by war surplus, truck engines, military differentials, and ingenuity. Within a few years, production climbed from 1 tractor per week to approximately 200 per year. In 1951, the L33 arrived, the first Lamborghini tractor built entirely by the company, powered by a Morris inline-6 engine of 3.5 liters. In 1952 came the DL30, using the Mercedes DW415 MWM diesel engine, and by 1954, Ferruccio Lamborghini had established a relationship with Motorenwerken Mannheim and begun building his own engines. In 1955, the company introduced its first crawler tractor with optional Lamborghini-built or MWM engines. The turn that made the story famous happened because of a heated argument between Ferruccio Lamborghini and Enzo Ferrari. Ferruccio, by then wealthy from his tractor business, complained to Ferrari about the clutch on his Ferrari tooth. Ferrari allegedly told him a tractor maker should mind his own business and leave sports cars to the experts. Ferruccio went home, founded Automobili Lamborghini in 1963, and the sports car company was born. He sold Lamborghini Trattori to the same group in 1973. The same year, he was also dealing with the aftermath of an earthquake that damaged his factory and other personal setbacks. Same Società Comandita Motori Endotermici has operated the brand since then, and today Lamborghini Trattori is part of the SDF group, producing tractors in Italy, Poland, and India. For American farmers and collectors, the Lamborghini tractor carries an irresistibility that no other machine on this list can claim in quite the same way. These are not hobbyist tractors. The modern Lamborghini tractor lineup is serious, capable agricultural equipment, but carrying a name that makes every non-farming person within earshot do a double-take. The combination of Italian engineering heritage, a genuinely powerful brand story, and actual field capability made Lamborghini tractors objects of fascination in the American market that far exceeded their sales numbers. Number 4. Deutz-Allis 919. This tractor deserves its own spotlight, distinct from the broader Deutz air-cooled story, because it represents something very specific. The precise moment when European engineering ambitions met American market realities and produced a genuinely remarkable machine. The problem Deutz faced in penetrating the American market in the late 1980s was cultural as much as mechanical. American farmers in the large row crop heartland wanted high horsepower, familiar styling, and a dealership network they could trust. The straight European Deutz 710-100 series machines, superb in most technical respects, were better suited to European farming conditions and came with the added burden of an unfavorable exchange rate that made competitive pricing difficult. Deutz's solution was to go to white. The company formed from the old Oliver and Cockshut brands and commissioned an entirely new composite tractor. White designed the final drive and the American market body. Deutz contributed its air-cooled engine. The result was the 9100 series, released in 1989, finished in Alice Chalmers Persian orange, a color that carried enormous nostalgic loyalty in the American Midwest. The 919 was the flagship, 19.3 horsepower from a turbocharged and intercooled Dutch BF6 L5113R air-cooled six-cylinder diesel. It came standard with all-wheel drive through a German ZF front axle. The 9150 produced 150 horsepower from a 374 cubic inch turbocharged and intercooled Dutch. The 9170 sat in between at 172 horsepower, available with conventional rear drive or AWD. What made these machines unusual in any American lineup at the time was not just the air-cooled engine. It was the inclusion of front and rear differential locks and four-wheel brakes as standard, features that were not common on American-built competitors of the era. The European DNA was visible in the details, even when the orange paint and styling tried to mask it. American dealers who had been selling Alice Chalmers equipment for decades suddenly had a machine that looked like home but worked like Europe. Farmers who had never considered a foreign tractor found themselves operating German-engineered technology without even realizing it, and often finding they preferred it. Number 5. Fiat Trattori, Hesston. In 1977, the Italian industrial giant Fiat purchased Hesston Corporation, an established American manufacturer of hay and forage equipment based in Hesston, Kansas. The deal was about more than hay tools. In 1978, using the Hesston brand name and dealer network as their entry point, Fiat Trattori began importing their full lineup of Italian-built tractors into the North American market. These were real Fiat tractors, built in Italy, featuring Fiat engineering, but wearing Hesston badges to leverage the brand recognition that Kansas-based company had built with American farmers since Lyle Yost founded it in By 1976, Fiat Trattori's annual output had exceeded 86,000 tractors, with more than 50,000 units exported globally, compared to just 15,488 exported in 1955. The company's total production had exceeded 1.2 million tractors by 1977. These were not small numbers. Fiat Trattori was one of the largest tractor manufacturers in the world. The Fiat tractors that arrived under the Hesston name were well-engineered, durable machines. Farmers who operated them discovered something American tractor engineers were still treating as a premium feature. The 66 series, launched in 1982 with models from 45 to 80 horsepower, featured a cab designed in partnership with Pininfarina, the legendary Italian design house responsible for some of Ferrari's most iconic body styles. These were tractors whose operator environments had been designed by the same studio that shaped cars for the world's most demanding aesthetes. Multiple accounts from that era describe Hesston-badged Fiat tractors accumulating close to 10,000 hours with minimal major failures. The Italian engineering philosophy, mechanical simplicity, robust construction, straightforward serviceability translated very directly to American farm conditions. The machines worked. They lasted. They were not glamorous in the way that Fendt or Lamborghini were, but they were quietly, persistently reliable in a way that turned skeptical farmers into committed advocates. The Hesston brand of tractors ran until in 1991, Aggeco purchased Hesston's operations. The farm machinery world restructured again. Fiat eventually absorbed Ford New Holland and became CNH Industrial. But for the roughly 16 years that Hesston-badged Fiat tractors were on American soil, they earned a devoted following among farmers who found European durability inside a familiar American package. Number 6. Volvo BM. When Americans think of Volvo, they think of safe, reliable automobiles. What almost nobody in the United States knows is that Volvo was once one of Europe's most respected tractor builders, and that those Swedish farm machines made an impression in agricultural circles that lasted long after the brand stopped producing them. Volvo entered the tractor market in 1943 by partnering with the Swedish firm Bolinde Munktell, BM, a manufacturer whose own roots stretched back to the Eskilstuna Mekaniska Verkstad, founded by Theophron Munktell in 1832. In 1950, Volvo acquired Bolinde Munktell outright. The two brands ran separately until 1957, when all production was consolidated under the joint Bolinde Munktell Volvo label. In 1973, recognizing that the Volvo name carried greater global recognition, the company rebranded everything as Volvo BM. The Volvo BM 2654 was one of the most impressive machines the company ever built, powered by a 140 horsepower Volvo engine and representing the high horsepower end of a lineup that was sophisticated by any European standard of the 1970s. The 2600 series these machines came from featured a 5.5-liter Volvo six-cylinder engine and weighed close to 7 tons, making them serious field machines rather than utility tractors. In 1979, Volvo entered a joint venture with Finnish tractor manufacturer Valmet, and in 1985 sold its entire agricultural tractor business to Valmet. The Volvo BM 2005 and 2105 machines, released in 1986 under the Valmet badge, were in reality facelifts of the Volvo BM 2600 series from 7 years earlier, using the same 5.5-liter Volvo engine, which by then could produce up to 163 horsepower, and the same transmission architecture dating from the Volvo BM 800 series of the mid-90s. For American farmers who encountered Volvo BM machines in the 1970s and early 1980s, whether at trade shows, through imports, or via agricultural machinery demonstrations, the Swedish engineering philosophy was immediately apparent. These were solid, confident, well-engineered tractors from a company that understood cold weather operation, heavy draft work, and mechanical durability. The Volvo name gave them instant credibility in the American marketplace in a way that purely agricultural brand Europeans couldn't always match. When a name associated with automotive safety and Scandinavian engineering standards appeared on a tractor, American buyers noticed. Number 7. Zetor. Here is the tractor that might surprise you the most on this list, and the one with the most unlikely American story. Zetor was born in March 1946 in Brno, Czechoslovakia, at the Zbrojovka factory, a plant whose heritage stretched back to the Austro-Hungarian Empire's artillery workshops. The first Zetor tractor, the Z25, was a 25-horsepower twin-cylinder diesel machine built for mass production and export. The Z15, a single-cylinder economy model, followed. By 1954, a 4-cylinder 42-horsepower machine had joined the lineup, and by the early 1960s, Zetor had developed a unified range of 2-, 3-, and 4-cylinder tractors, sharing the maximum number of common components, an engineering strategy that kept parts inventories manageable and repair costs low for farmers worldwide. In its heyday during the 1970s, Zetor produced more than 77,000 tractors per year and exported them to virtually every corner of the world. By 2021, the company had sold more than 1.3 million tractors across 136 countries. The American chapter is remarkable. Zetor operations in North America date back to the late 1960s, when their tractors were submitted to and passed the rigorous Nebraska tractor test at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, the standard certification that determined whether a tractor was suitable for the American market. Canadian sales through Motorcoff Canada in Toronto averaged 500 units annually in the early 90s. In the United States, Zetor established a stable base in American Jawa Limited in Plainview, New York, was the first American distributor, and in their first year alone, 3,000 tractors were sold. The dealer network quickly expanded to 50 outlets. Over almost 40 years of operation, more than 27,000 Zetor tractors have been sold in the United States, with the North American subsidiary now based in Jacksonville, Florida. Between 1993 and 1996, Zetor signed a contract with John Deere to produce tractors under the American company's branding for markets in Latin and South America, machines that were Zetor designs painted in John Deere green and yellow. That contract is perhaps the clearest endorsement of Zetor's engineering quality. John Deere, the most recognized agricultural brand on earth, trusted Czech-designed tractors with its own badge. The Zetor Crystal, introduced in the 1970s, was the world's first tractor equipped with a safety cabin, a cab designed not just to protect the driver from weather, but to protect them in the event of a rollover. That innovation, born in communist-era Czechoslovakia, became an international safety standard. Zetor today holds approximately 55% market share in Central Europe. In America, they remain the affordable, reliable European alternative that never quite became mainstream, but never stopped selling either. Number 8. Fiat Trattori. 100 to 90. We mentioned the Fiat-Hesston connection earlier, but the specific machine that captured American imaginations most intensely was the 100 to 90. The model that stood at the top of Fiat Trattori's 90 series when it launched in The 90 series represented Fiat Trattori at its most ambitious. These were tractors whose cab, the operating environment where a farmer spends every working hour, had been designed by Pininfarina, the Italian design studio whose history of shaping Ferraris and other legendary automobiles made their involvement in tractor cabin design genuinely extraordinary. The cab was described as being mounted on silent blocks and styled as one unified form with the tractor body, rather than bolted on as an afterthought, a design philosophy that resulted in reduced noise, reduced vibration, and a feeling of operator integration that European farmers had never experienced from a mainstream tractor before. The 110 Miotier produced 100 horsepower from a Fiat diesel engine and was available in both two-wheel and four-wheel drive configurations. In the four-wheel drive version, the 110 DT, it represented a complete fieldwork solution that could be deployed across the full range of farm operations without the compromises that had historically accompanied European spec four-wheel drive tractors in American conditions. Fiat Trattori's output in 1976 exceeded 86,000 tractors per year, with 50,000 of those exported. That scale of production meant Fiat Trattori's quality control was refined through volume in ways that smaller specialty manufacturers couldn't match. The 100 to 90 benefited from that industrial maturity. When these machines arrived in the United States via the Hesston distribution network, they introduced American farmers to the idea that a tractor cab could be a designed environment rather than simply a functional enclosure. The Pininfarina influence was visible in the proportions, the sightlines, the ergonomics of the control layout. It was, in the most literal sense, Italian automotive design applied to agricultural machinery. And American farmers who climbed into one and compared it to their domestic alternatives found the difference immediately apparent. Number 9. Steyr. Austria is not the first country that comes to mind when you think of tractor manufacturing. But the Steyr name, from a company whose engineering roots trace back to 1864 and whose history includes armaments, automobiles, and military vehicles, represents one of the most quietly respected tractor-building traditions in Europe. Agricultural tractors have been built in St. Valentin, Austria, since 1947, the year Steyr produced its first post-war tractor, a green Type 180 model. In 1966, Steyr tractors adopted their distinctive red and white colors. In 1957, the St. Valentin plant was purchased by Steyr Daimler Puch AG, a conglomerate with extraordinary engineering depth that was simultaneously producing automobiles, military vehicles, and bicycles. The cross-pollination of engineering knowledge from these different product lines shaped the Steyr tractor's character: precision-built, over-engineered by agricultural norms, and extraordinarily durable. Steyr's innovations were genuinely leading-edge. The company pioneered high-speed diesel engines for agricultural applications, reversing transmissions with PTOs capable of rotating in either direction for stationary implement power, and planetary rear axles with hydraulic controls. In 1999, Steyr launched its first tractor with a continuously variable transmission, independently developing the CVT philosophy that Fendt had introduced in 1995, bringing another Austrian engineering tradition to the stepless drive technology race. For American farmers, Steyr machines arrived through a complex path. In 1995, Case IH signed a supply deal with Steyr, and in 1996, Case Corporation purchased the Steyr agricultural division outright. Some Steyr models were incorporated directly into the Case IH tractor line, but the Steyr brand continued producing its own specific range, and for farmers who knew the origin of these machines, there was a particular pride in understanding that what looked like a Case IH was actually engineered in the same Austrian factory that had been refining tractor technology since Steyr remains a dominant force in the Austrian domestic market, leading tractor registrations there for over 7 consecutive decades. The brand today is sold across Austria, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, Slovenia, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. But its American chapter, the years when its engineering directly shaped Case IH products, represents one of the most substantive examples of European agricultural technology flowing into American farmyards, without most American farmers even knowing the source. Number 10. Valmet, Valtra. The final tractor on this list comes from the least likely country imaginable for heavy agricultural machinery, Finland. A nation of lakes and forests, extreme cold, and a post-war economy that had been largely directed toward reparations payments to the Soviet Union. And yet, from precisely those industrial conditions, emerged one of the most distinctive tractor brands in European history, Valmet. Originally Valtion Metallitet, meaning State Metalworks, was formed in 1951 when Finland grouped its various state-owned factories under one company. These factories had been working on war reparations to the Soviet Union and produced an extraordinary range of products including aeroplanes, locomotives, weapons, and everyday household appliances. Tractors were part of this industrial portfolio from the beginning. The international opening for Valmet came in the 1980s, accelerated dramatically by the acquisition of the Volvo BM farm tractor business. In 1983, the new Nordic tractor series was completed, headlined by the Valmet 905, powered by a 6-cylinder Valmet engine producing 105 horsepower. The need for even greater power led to the Valmet 2005 and 21005 in 1986, machines that were in reality refined versions of the Volvo BM 2600 series, powered by a 5.5-liter Volvo engine producing up to 163 horsepower with an operating weight approaching 7 tons. Valtra, the name used since the brand evolved from Valmet, has been part of Axio Corporation since 2004, giving it direct American distribution channels. Today's Valtra NT Q&S series tractors represent the culmination of Finnish engineering traditions, Scandinavian cold weather design expertise, and the absorbed heritage of Volvo BM. The Finnish emphasis on operator comfort in extreme conditions translated directly and usefully to American farmers working northern states, Canadian provinces, and mountain regions where winter conditions and brutal temperature swings were part of the operational reality. Valtra is known for its unusually extensive customization options. Farmers can configure color, cab layout, technology features, and mechanical specifications to a degree that American mass-market tractor manufacturers historically did not offer. The brand slogan, "Working for the Real World," reflects a Nordic pragmatism that resonated strongly with American farmers who were frustrated by tractors engineered for average conditions rather than their specific ones. Over 1.4 million Valtra Valmet tractors are in use today, across more than 90 countries. The American market, once considered an unlikely target for a Finnish tractor brand, now represents a genuine and growing footprint for a machine that started in a country most Americans would struggle to find on a map. So that's it for today. If you like this video, then please hit the like and subscribe button for more videos. Thanks for watching.